of how, again, we don't want to succumb to the argument from personal incredulity just because you can't think of it or I can't think of it. Doesn't mean it can't happen. In any case, there may be an underlying principle behind all the fine-tuned equations or relationships that will be forthcoming with a grand unified theory of physics. This is Steven Weinberg's argument. Maybe there's not 6 weird numbers. Maybe there's just one number. You know, one equation you put on a t-shirt, that's it. That explains everything. So you don't have 6 mysteries, you just have one. In any case, I like the multiverse explanation the best. That is, there might be multiple bubble universes, each of which has slightly different configurations of laws of nature. And anyone that has laws of nature like ours that give rise to planets and stars and planets and people asking why the numbers are like they are. Like the guy who wins the lottery, can't believe he won the lottery. How improbable is that? Well, pretty improbable, but there's, you know, millions of people playing and somebody has to win, so okay. So the law of large numbers. In any case, that is, in the history of science, that is the direction we've been moving. From the Earth is the entire universe with God just outside looking in. There's the firmament of the stars with the ocean, the waters up here that gave rise to the flood, by the way. That's a Babylonian mythology. The Earth-centered solar system with the stars and planets just on these crystal spheres and God just outside looking in. To the sun-centered solar system is the entire universe. To the Milky Way is the entire known universe. In 1903, this is an illustration from Alfred Russel Wallace's 1903 book, in which he argued that we have to be alone in the universe because it's so small. It's only 1,200 light years across. That's barely a century ago that we believed it was that tiny. And it wasn't until Edwin Hubble here in 1923 discovered in a photo plate all-night exposure from the telescope, 100-inch telescope from Mount Wilson, that there are variable stars there, and new variable, but VAR exclamation point. Wow! A variable star is a measure of, you can use it as a measure of distance. And it was in the middle of a debate about what these fuzzy patches represented. Were they just gaseous nebula in our galaxy, or did they actually represent island universes in and of themselves? So he turned out to be right about that. So again, our worldview just gets bigger to a steady state universe filled with galaxies in, say, the 1950s, to a Big Bang, beginning, accelerating, expanding universe to today, all the way up to, well, cosmic bubble universes, in which it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and sort of rising through these as we go out orders of magnitude to our entire known bubble universe, to possibly a multiverse containing an infinite number of bubble universes. Okay, wow. Now, we don't have any evidence of this. I mean, we're both off the page of science at this point. This is, you know, pure metaphysics. But this is at least potentially testable through gravitational wave telescopes. That is, devices to measure gravitational waves. There may be energies coming from other universes that we could measure. Maybe. But of course, at this point, then it's like, yeah, but where did the other bubble universes come from? Who started that? And at some point, the causal chain does have to stop. And we're left with sort of a point of ignorance there, I suppose. An epistemological barrier gets hit. And there, I suppose, is the opening for somebody's faith. I don't think it's a good strategy, in any case, to tell people that in order to accept Darwin and evolution and science, you have to give up religion. Because for most people, that isn't a choice that they want to make. And if you make them make that choice, you can probably guess, at least in America, the choice that they're going to make. Wait, you want me to give up my friends and family and social circle and everybody I know? For what? I mean, it's just a theory. Like Darwin? I don't care about Darwin. I mean, that's a false choice, I think, to give somebody strategically. In any case, I don't think you have to. Even philosophically, I think, you know, we don't know everything. It's entirely possible that there's a creator that just set it all up to look this way. I don't personally believe that, but I can see why it's at least reasonable for somebody to think that, especially as long as they leave me alone. And they don't fly planes into buildings, and they don't try to influence presidential elections, and so on. I mean, if we just keep it separated, I think it's a reasonable way to go. And I think that was the way Darwin presented it himself, not only for personal reasons, but for strategic reasons. He thought that the best way to progress is to teach and do better science than just leave religion out of it. And that's where I stand on that. Thank you.
We're going to take about 15 minutes for questions, around there. We can go a little bit over. So, Michael, you're
okay.
We'll start taking questions.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Mark. I'm from a small town north of here called Longmont. And I've been a subscriber to your magazine for about 3 years. And my question is, anthropologists have found fossil evidence that indicates that our species, Homo sapiens, not necessarily Homo sapiens sapiens, has been on the planet for between 100,000 and 140,000 years. Do you have any thoughts on where the rest of our history is?
The question is, if we came from, everybody alive today came from common ancestor 150 to 100,000 years ago, where'd everybody go? They died. They did what most animals do. They go extinct. And there's much debate about what happened. I mean, it looks like we just spread through communities throughout Europe and Asia, and they just disappeared. We outbred them, maybe. We killed them. We don't have a real good track record on that front, as you know. So, might have ate them. It's not good. We're not bonobos. We're not chimps either. We're kind of blended there. But like with Neanderthals is the even more hotly contested one. There's claims every once in a while that the skeletal feature looks like it could have been an inbreed between a Neanderthal and a Homo sapiens, or the genetics or something like this on a cold winter night up there in that cave. You love the one you're with. Something like that. But those usually fail the test, and at the moment it looks like there was no inbreeding, but it surprised me. Yes?
In tonight's presentation and in other debates and speeches I've heard from you, I feel like you're constantly mischaracterizing intelligent design. In an earlier slide you said that you had a three-part statement. It was, it looks designed, we can't think of how it arose naturally, therefore it must be designed. But isn't that, and I'm thinking specifically of Stephen Meyer, who's raised this with you, it's leaving out his further premise that we do have examples of how these things, complexity of certain kinds arises, namely through intelligent agents. Don't you think it's better to attack that argument instead of, I feel like it's a straw man, basically.
Yeah, well, I don't want to do a straw man. That's too easy. That's why I gave what I thought were the best arguments. In the case of Stephen's examples, well, yes, we do have examples of design, stuff that we design, either artifactually or even
right. So humans created all life on Earth should be the conclusion.
Right,
of his argument.
but we have a vast experience of humans creating design, of designing things, of a known intelligence. The problem with the invocation of God, well, there's no experience of that. All we have is the artifacts themselves, not the designer, or the observation of the designer making things. So, Asimov's famous, where I got the Shermer's last law, any sufficiently advanced form of technology, how's it going? Any sufficiently advanced, it's indistinguishable from magic. Right, so you just pick anything, an iPhone, whatever. I mean, 100 years ago, this is pure magic. But we can, and if that's all you had, and nothing else, and there were no people or anything, it would look like. Oh, an even better example, the quadriplegic guy with the chip in his head, and he can think thoughts, and it moves the cursor on his computer, and he can do video games, check his email, and so on. So if you didn't know he had a chip in his head, this looks like telekinesis. He's thinking a thought, and the computer is responding to his thoughts. So the problem is we don't have the chip. We don't have the God chip. We don't have any examples of a designer outside of ourselves doing anything. So that's the problem with the artificer inference. Yes?
You said we need evidence of a designer actually doing the designing, but I was thinking of archaeology and how archaeologists find, artifacts from a long time ago, and writings in caves and whatnot, simple things like that, and they infer a designer from that, but they don't